All right, joining us now to react to all of today's big news, holding people accountable, deep state, people that abuse power, and the biggest corruption scandal we've seen. Texas Senator Ted Cruz is with us. Senator, between the media and people that we entrust with the powerful tools of intelligence, to see that they rigged an investigation with Hillary, they lied and committed fraud before FISA courts, purposefully, we now know, because they were all warned about who paid for it. They omitted that, what Christopher Steele was all about, defeating Trump, and then bludgeoning the president, trying to undo a duly elected president the way they have. You're a constitutional scholar. You, I think, appreciate how severe this is for the country. How do we rectify this so it never happens again?
Well, let me say, first of all, this weekend was a very good weekend for the president, but even more fundamentally, it was a very good weekend for the country. We've had now 2 years of this special prosecutor investigation, and during the entire time, virtually every Democrat and all the media has been breathlessly covering every minute of it, insisting collusion, 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 collusion. Well, we now have the report from the special counsel. The special counsel concluded there was no evidence, zero evidence of collusion. That's a big deal. Not only that, but we also now know that both the Attorney General, Bill Barr, and the Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, concluded that none of the evidence supports charges of obstruction of justice, which means everything the Democrats and media have been talking about for 2 years was lacking in a factual basis. And the entire media has egg on their face. And what are they doing now? They're not apologizing. They're not backtracking. They're not saying, gosh, our facts were wrong. Instead, they're attacking. We're seeing every Democrat pivot to say, oh, no, never mind about conclusion. Never mind about crimes or evidence. And mark my word, Sean, the House Democrats are going to impeach the president anyway, not because of any evidence, not because of any crimes, but because of the fact that he's Donald Trump and they hate Donald Trump. And it's showing just how extreme they are.
You know, you went up against a guy, Beto O'Rourke, as they call him. I have my own names for him. I won't drag you into my mess. But I got to tell you something. I've seen Benjamin Netanyahu as a Churchillian figure that
yes.
was alone, the sole voice of moral clarity against modern evil in our time until Donald Trump got into office. And I see that O'Rourke literally went after Netanyahu as an ally of racists. And we know that Reuters covered the real story of your opponent for over a year. They made a deal with Beto to hurt you in that election and help him. Well, listen, when it comes to media bias, the Reuters stories is truly a smoking gun. Back in 2017, they had evidence that Beto may have committed multiple felonies. The reporter interviewed Beto on the record, and he confirmed it. But then they cut a deal and said, OK, we won't report on it until after the 2018 election. Why? Because they want the Democrat to win. They wanted Beto to beat me. Now that Beto's running against Bernie and against all the other leftists, now Reuters will report it. And it's the media is in bed with the far left wing of the Democratic Party. But I'll tell you, this also reveals, I mean, you're talking about Prime Minister Netanyahu, who I know well and consider a friend, and Churchillian is exactly the right adjective for him. One of the things this reveals, listen, Beto's trying to appeal to the extreme left in the Democratic Party, and one of the ways you do that is by launching anti-Israel attacks. I was at the AIPAC conference this week. Not a single Democratic presidential candidate came to the conference. And we saw just a couple of weeks ago the House of Representatives couldn't pass a simple bill condemning anti-Semitism. Well, I'll tell you, Sean, I've introduced a resolution in the Senate condemning anti-Semitism. I think we need to take it up, and I think we need to put every senator on record. I hope the Democrats are willing to condemn anti-Semitism, the kind of comments these freshman House members are making, things like it's all about the Benjamins, which is nothing but an anti-Semitic trope. I also have legislation to formally recognize as a matter of statute the Golan Heights as part of Israel. This weekend, the president announced that he's going to do that. I've been urging him and the administration to do that for months. That is a tremendous victory for Israel and America, but we need to take up and pass my legislation to put in federal law that the Golan Heights is part of the nation of Israel. All right, Senator, That's unfair. And if you're part of the media and you cover up for, that's a campaign contribution in a major way. Needs to be investigated.
Is there any universe in which Reuters would cut that deal for a Republican?
No.
Can you imagine Reuters doing that?
Of course. Good to see you, Senator. Thank you.
President Trump calling to investigate Obama-era officials for their role in launching the Russia collusion probe.
Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky tweeted out last night this shocking claim. Breaking, a high-level source tells me it was John Brennan who insisted that the unverified and fake Steele dossier be included in the intel report. Brennan should be asked to testify under oath in front of Congress as soon as possible.
Senator Rand Paul joins us now to explain. Senator Paul, what more can you tell us about the lead you got?
Well, my source tells me that the intelligence community, Obama's intelligence community, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, they were frustrated because they had this Russian dossier, but nobody believed it was real. It wasn't verifiable. They couldn't get anything of it. So they sent spies into the Trump campaign. They tried to entrap Trump officials to admit they were working with Russia. That wasn't working. And so they were frustrated, but they wanted to somehow get this information out, this Russian dossier, that even the media wasn't publishing. Nobody would publish it because it was so scandalous, unverifiable, and likely fiction. So finally they decided, well, what we have to do is attach this dossier, this fake dossier, to an intelligence report. So the president receives these intelligence reports, and they're given directly to the president. Well, what they do is they staple to the report the Russian dossier. So now Obama's officially seeing it, and then also it's given to Trump at this point. But realize that this is a big circle. They'd had the dossier for months and months. So when John McCain is given the dossier, it's given to him by people who may have leaked it from our government to John McCain, so John McCain can give it back to the FBI. I mean, it's a crazy circle, all trying to justify something that wasn't true, but extraordinary power of these people and extraordinary corruption. And they almost brought, they tried to bring down a sitting president. This shouldn't happen to anybody. And when President Trump spoke to us this week, he said he doesn't want it to happen to any future presidents, Republican or Democrat, that the intelligence agencies use all of their power of surveillance to actually try to bring down a sitting president.
Yeah, you say that Brennan, Clapper, and Comey were all frustrated. What's frustrating is they use this dossier, this unverified, salacious dossier, very scandalous, as you say, to try to take down the president. You tweeted out you have a high-level source. I doubt you're going to tell us who the source is, but I have to ask, who's the source? And if you're not going to tell me the name, how trustworthy is this person?
I think it comes from someone who has a great deal of information about what's been going on. Not everybody, nobody knows the complete picture yet. And that's why I'm in favor of, the president has now said that he's going to declassify some of these documents. See, I believe that the dossier, had been held by the FBI for several months. Brennan starts his little group to investigate it. I believe at that time they did talk to President Obama about it, and I think they should all be asked, when did President Obama learn about this and what was his recommendation? He's in charge of the government. Did he recommend that you try to spread the dossier throughout the government? Remember those reports right around the time of the election, right after Trump won, They were saying that Obama officials were spreading this information throughout government. They were spreading the dossier and they couldn't get any traction, so then they released it to people outside government, reporters who would write a story, and then they would say to the FISA judge, look, there's a story being written about this dossier, it must be true.
It's Exhibit A. Well, it'll be interesting when you're able to call Mr. Brennan in front of Congress. That's going to be great. A member of Congress got the attention of the president this morning in a tweet. I want to read it to you, Senator. Congressman Adam Schiff, the president writes, who spent 2 years knowingly and unlawfully leaking and lying, should be forced to resign from Congress. What do you think about that?
Pretty strong words. I think we should see the evidence. I think if you're on the intelligence committees or any committees that handle sensitive material, leaking that to the media is a crime and ought to be a crime. And we have certain rules for congressmen, so you can say things in public on the floor in the spirit of debate. You can't be censored for that. But if you're from a committee hearing a classified hearing and then you're talking to a reporter about it, that is a real problem. It's one reason why whenever I go to a classified hearing, I don't stop and talk to the media immediately, because I want to make sure that I've collected my thoughts and that I don't reveal anything that came from the classified hearing.
But it does happen a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it comes all throughout government. That's a sad thing. It comes from the Pentagon. It comes from the Department of State.
Yeah.
I talk to ambassadors, our ambassadors overseas, and some of them are afraid to talk to me on official lines because they're being listened to by other members of our government.
Yeah, and by the way, the Democrats are not buying the summary. They still think the president colluded just about to a person. They just can't get enough of this story.
Yeah, and I think what's going to happen, and what I'm telling people is I'm okay with the Mueller report coming out more completely, but in addition, we need to have information on Obama, White House officials, Comey, Brennan, Clapper. That should be part of it because the report is the conclusion, but the beginning is why did we get to the report in the beginning, and did someone misuse their office? So if Democrats want the complete Mueller report, I'm going to object until we get a complete report of all the Obama-era officials that got this thing started.
Okay. You're not alone. A lot of Americans feel that same way. Thanks so much, Senator, for being with us.
Thank you.